De nada.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I am Jahan, an international student from Pakistan, from Punjab region, and it was really great to see so many Punjabis in your cabinet. So,
Yes, I have more Sikhs in my cabinet than Modi does.
So my question is, from yesterday's conversation with President Obama, there was a similar question that he is being criticized. That's quite ironic, but real, that he's being criticized for the rise of the conservative hardliners, especially Donald Trump, because he's being blamed that it was his policies that has resulted in this. So what are your plans to stem a similar rise of right-wing or conservative, another Trump in Canada?
We had an election in the fall that featured a number of different narratives that are repeating themselves around the world. Certainly in Europe, with some of the challenges they're facing with migrants. Here in the States, to a certain extent, during your primary season, we had a conservative government that was talking about fear and division as a way of moving forward, whether it was talking about snitch lines for barbaric cultural practices, so you could call up if your neighbors were engaged in barbaric cultural practices. They could never quite explain why 911 wasn't an effective line when you see mistreatment or such. There was also real division around headscarves and a sort of tone of negativity that was very compelling and certainly gained a certain amount of traction. But I found that Canadians, in any case, find it hard to sustain anger and fear for very long. We are an optimistic, hopeful people. We know and generally like our neighbors. Well, I meant that within Canada, but it applies to the United States too. Having an approach that really emphasized that whenever you grab any disparate group of people together and have some conversations, you realize that the things that unite us are always far greater than the things that divide us. And I think that ultimately is what democracies keep moving steadily towards. So I have confidence in the American electorate and look forward to working with whoever you elect come November. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ford Fisher, and I'm a student at the School of Communications at American University. My question has a little tinge of humor to it, but also a serious element. As was just asked in the last question, we have a presidential candidate right now who says he would build a border wall with Mexico and make them pay for it. And we have a lot of Americans who earnestly say, I would leave and go to Canada if we elected Trump as president. So my question to you is, how would you deal with an influx of American immigrants to Canada? Would you open your gates to American immigrants, or would you build a wall and make America pay for it?
Every election season, there are people who swear that if the candidate they don't like gets elected, they're moving to Canada. If over the past decades that had been the case, we'd have more people in Canada than the United States right now, instead of being 1/10 your size. It becomes an easy thing to cry out. Every year, there are Canadians who move to the United States. Every year there are Americans who move up to Canada. That's just the nature of our friendship and relationship, and to link it too much to politics is, as you point out, humorous and a trope that comes up through election seasons. But the reality is the integration of our countries, the work we do together, the engagement on so many different issues means that there'll always be flows back and forth, and one must never fret or be disappointed with that at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. You are an inspiration for many young people like me. I'm Nasir, a graduate student of International Development at SIS. I've been actually following Canada's economy for personal reasons. I'm interested in it. I have two questions for you. First of all, the energy sector in Canada has been struggling, particularly in Alberta, and many people are frustrated. So first question, what's your plan to improve the situation? Second question, I have two friends who are a big fan of you. Can I have autograph for them? By the way, I am happy to advise you if needed.
Thank you very much. If you can stand by the door when I leave, because for the second question. For the first one, the energy sector, obviously the drop in oil prices has hit energy-producing countries very hard right around the world, and Canada certainly is no exception. One of the challenges we have to face is to make sure that we're properly diversifying our economy. Canada has tremendous natural resources, including energy resources, but I always feel that our greatest strength is the human resources that we apply to both the knowledge economy and our natural resource sector, the innovation, the science, the research that we're doing to make sure that we're always doing better with that. So we're going through a tough time right now, but at the same time it gives us an opportunity to rethink certain sectors and to ensure that when oil prices start to rise again, we have taken advantage of this sort of lull to make sure that we have innovated in terms of efficiency, in terms of environmental responsibility, in terms of how we're engaging in cutting-edge, thoughtful ways to get through the years where we will still be dependent on fossil fuels and make sure we end up as quickly as possible into a world where renewable energy actually drives our economy. Canada needs to be part of it, and indeed our oil sector companies are investing massively in solar, in wind, in geothermal, in a broad range of solutions. And that's, quite frankly, what we have to do. In the meantime, there are a lot of families who are out of work in Alberta because there had been such a boom in terms of the oil sector there that we're very concerned about, and we're working with them to ensure that we're able to support them through this tough time in ways that will continue to contribute to the economy in the coming years.